have the same disclaimer like Nangula had, like she's not an economist, she's not a politician. So I'm both of those. So I can't disclaim anything, and therefore can ask me all the questions. But I want just to recognize the presence of the Prime Minister Nahasangula in the midst. Citizen Nahasangula. And of course everybody else. Before I start my, my remarks though, for what I've prepared, can I just have, I want to see how many people are here at 26 years and younger. Just by show of hand. Well, so the Nas, yes. Okay, so, okay, thank you very much. This is just an indication because what I was going to say about, it might mean different things to different people depending how old you are. And my remark really, I was asked to talk about the economy, and when Roland asked me, I wasn't sure what exactly he expected me to say. And when you are asked to speak to an audience like yours, people expect you to have, say something sensible. And I tried to get something sensible going. And what I really wanted to say, look, when Nangula was talking here about Namibia as a potential investment destination for foreign investment, it is true. We just had an investment conference which ended yesterday. And I want to say it was really quite a huge success, the interest people have shown in our country. Not only the people from outside, but I think even our own people locally, I think they also understand that I think we have something good going for us. And if you really look back 36 years ago, that's why I'm asking how many people are here at 26 years and younger. Things are not really what they were then. Things have changed. And I want to say Namibia certainly, I think, is a better place to live in, most of us, than it was before. But yet, even with those achievements, which I think we all have, we know some of them, whether it's in the economic sphere, whether it's in the social sphere, certain things have changed for the better. But yet, when you listen to the people, when you look at the media, it's almost as if we are saying nothing much has happened. Especially lately, it's almost like, we are so dissatisfied that nothing has happened, and therefore something has to happen now. And only now it must happen now. And I keep asking myself, I wonder why is that the case? And obviously when I say things have happened, I'm not saying everything has happened and therefore people should not have difficulties or people should not have issues that they will still want to raise, the things they want to see happening. I'm not saying that at all, to the contrary. What I'm saying is that sometimes it's always good also to acknowledge what has happened so that what has happened can actually be an incentive for us to do more. Because if we were able to do whatever we've achieved right now, and knowing that what is still outstanding, what will be that so difficult for us to be able to tackle those challenges? So I would also just want to appreciate sometimes when we also recognize what has happened, and not only to talk about what has not happened. And as I've said, I'm not saying it didn't happen. There are not challenges. There are challenges. For example, there's no doubt that it was said there, we still need a lot of people who need to be employed. We still have an economy that is not growing as fast as possible. And even when it's growing, it's not really that inclusive, such that the benefit accruing from the economy is not always really shared on an equitable basis within the society. So those are still some of the challenges. But I think if we start off by acknowledging our achievement, that might just be a better way of still then going after those things that are still outstanding for us. And I also normally say that when people concentrate more on what people say is a failure, what has not happened, and almost as if they're saying that we shouldn't do anything else because every time we do something they say, look, it's not going to work, it has not worked before, why should it work now? I also like reminding people by saying, in life, sometimes you need to fail before you succeed. And some of the big successes in the world we know today, it could be technology, what could be whatever all the breakthroughs we have in the world, those did not happen just because it happened by, just once. Those are really things that happened because people were not afraid to try things, whether it will work or not work. They were not afraid to fail. They weren't sure whether it will work, but they were just, are determined that we need to do something, we need to try something. And therefore, really, even when we do not achieve what we set out to achieve, it should not really be a reason why we don't want to try other things again. And therefore, when we air our concern about those things that we still need to do, we should just recognize those achievements. Now, for us to be able, to progress, with our development agenda, there are a few things which I believe we need to do. And the first one is that of us starting really to believe in our own capabilities. As Namibians, at times, we don't really, believe in ourselves in terms of what we can achieve. And that is probably, I don't know, but there are examples where we have agreed to do certain things. We thought we all have agreed. Just at the slightest signs of difficulty of doing what we've agreed to do. And then we all want to give up already. The voices we hear is the ones which says, no, we can't do it. So we should really, try to acknowledge our own capability to do things. Because, as I said, we have done a lot of things, and therefore those should really be incentives for us to be able to say, yes, we are able to do that, and therefore we can do that. Otherwise, really, if we're not prepared to have that determination and that belief in ourselves, things aren't going to get any easier for us. Things will become difficult as we go on, and therefore it will just be difficult and therefore delay our own development agendas because we do not have that self-belief that it can happen. The second thing which we should continue to do, and Nangula touched on that as well, is that given the smallness of our country, there are certain things that we can do better. There are certain things which other people can do better, and therefore it's not really for us to do those things. And therefore, going forward, what we really need to do is to be able to be better at prioritizing the things we can do better. And not to try to be everything, because we can't. We've spoken about having a good location where we can serve as a gateway into Southern Africa, and we have started doing that. And therefore, really going forward, we should just really identify those things which we can do better. And not to believe that we can be good at everything as we want to do. Just because such a country has done it, and therefore we think we can do that. And therefore, going forward, let's start to prioritize and do that the best we can. And I also know that when we do this prioritization, it won't be like a smooth process. There will always be people who believe that, let's do this rather than these things. And we should allow that debate. At times also we shy away from debate. If I have to have a different position on certain things, then it's almost as if I'm your enemy. I'm no longer just having a different opinion, I'm your enemy now. But we need to be able to give us each space and debate in order for us to come to the best solution we can have. Just because somebody differs from my version of the way I see things, it does not necessarily mean they're against me. It simply means that they have a different views, and it has to happen in that case, because we all got different education background, different social background, and there's just no way that we are all going to be agreeing on everything else. And therefore, let's allow each other space to debate things which we need to do. But I also want to caution against us debating endlessly, simply because we don't want to offend each other, and then we keep on debating and debating and debating. At the end of the day, nothing gets decided, nothing gets done, because we are still debating. And therefore, there's nothing really worse than having an endless debate, and then at the end of the day, you have nothing to do really. So, as much as I say we must give each other space, but there comes a time when we said we have debated enough, and therefore that should be the course of our actions. And we all should embrace what we have now decided, even if I was personally not probably for that particular kind of action. But since I was afforded that opportunity to debate, I should be able to do what we all need to do. The third issue I think we need to concentrate on going forward is also that of when we have agreed to do certain things, we should have the necessary discipline with which we need to execute what we have agreed. Otherwise, if we do not have that discipline, that says that yes, we have agreed, and therefore every one of us, if I was given that opportunity, if I was given that responsibility to execute something, then I must do that with the discipline necessary for us to be able to achieve the result. Because again, at times, we have got responsibility. And here it can be government officials, it could be private sector operators, given the responsibility. But instead of me embracing that responsibility and doing what is necessary and required of me to make sure that happens, I just do nothing about it. As I said, it could be me maybe as a politician, it could be a student who was given a responsibility to go and study and even opportunity, but I simply squander that opportunity. It could be civil servants, like I hear sometimes, civil servants who are more interested in promoting their own economic interests instead of serving the public interest. That should not be accepted. It could be a private sector company that is more concentrated or more concerned about its profit margins at all costs and completely disregard social responsibility. So all of us really are in this to make sure at least that when we are given the responsibility, let's make sure that we do execute that responsibility with the discipline required. Otherwise, we'll always have shortcomings in terms of what we are achieving as a country. I will not be talking as long as Nangula did. I think I've got one or 2 points to make. And I think the last point I want to make is that of the current economic situation we are all experiencing. And I think we all know about that we are having some economic headwinds, where the economy is not as growing as fast as we thought it's going to grow, where the revenue that we thought we were going to collect is not as much as we thought it was going to be. And therefore, really, we have got economic issues that we need to deal with it. But what I want to say is I think we should really treat this as a temporary difficulty we're experiencing, provided, of course, we do the right things. And the right thing simply really is for us to reorganize our lives, to reorganize our goals, and to make sure that we are able to live within the means we have got available to us. And that's all what we need to do. And if we all agree to do that, I think this will be a temporary thing, I think, which we can all overcome. And for now, that's what the government has done. The Minister of Finance, during his budget review, have explained the government response to this particular economic headwinds we are talking about. And I really think if we are consistent by doing that, we're going to get out of this problem. But that does not only take the government to be the one to do that. I think all of us, even the private sector. You just need to be a little more circumspect in terms of how do we go forward. Because at times when there are problems, when there are difficulties in our society, we always try to think it's only the government that must do something to resolve the matter. It can't always be the government. In fact, I was thinking when Nangula was showing us the list of response from the CEOs of companies, their concerns. I was just wondering, when you do that survey next time around, please also ask the political leaders what their concerns are. And we put those together and just see how do they balance out. Because at times we really think, the private sector needs this and therefore government must do it. But also just ask what the government leaders would want to see the private sector doing as well. I think just have that comparison. So in this area really of us getting out of this economic slump where we are, it's really, I think, a responsibility of all of us. And if we all act as a collective, we're simply going to ride out this problem. It won't be easy, but I think that's what we need to do. And our president has been talking about having, us to build a Namibian house where no one feels left out. And this, I think, is exactly one of those things that we need to do as part of building that Namibian house by doing what we need to do, by changing the way we behave. But I also know that normally changing things is not always as easy. Most of the time, we want things to change, but we want other people to be the one to make the changes. But at times, it can even be better if me, myself, I'm the one who actually start to say, look, that's the kind of change I need to do for myself in my own life. That way, I think, as a collective, changes can do happen. But as I say, change is not always easy, they're always difficult. And as human beings by nature, we are all comfortable with what status quo. Whatever is happening now, that's what I'm comfortable with. But if we're all going to be comfortable with our status quo, it will simply mean then that our development agenda in the countries will not change as fast as we would want it to be. And even when we're inviting the investment to come here, the foreign investors to come like we did over the last 2 years, or 2 days, it will just be a bit slower because we're not prepared to be the change agent for what we need to do. So really that's all I had to say for today. And then as I said, being an economist, being a politician, I have got all the time to answer your questions, although I know there are only 3 questions last. So I'll stop here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. We're of the general notion that for our economy to grow, we're required to have a skilled labor force. But is there not a gap for an unskilled labor force as well, for smaller jobs that build up the skilled labor jobs that we have in Namibia? For example, farmers. For our agricultural industry, you're not required to be a skilled laborer in order to be working in that industry. So why is it that we belittle unskilled labor in Namibia?
You can just answer. I think it's good if you just answer, then you can respond.
I don't think it's a matter of belittling unskilled labor. I think if there are unskilled jobs, obviously those will be occupied by unskilled people. But the point is, more and more unskilled labor become less and less, or unskilled jobs become less and less. And therefore, really, even if you don't really skill people, it will just simply mean that going forward, you're going to have too many people who are unemployed because there's not enough jobs that are for unskilled people. And also as a country, as small as we are, the only way we can really grow this economy is by actually promoting an export-led economy. And that means by having some services which you're going to have to sell to somebody else, or a good that you must sell to someone else. But unfortunately, most of the time, you need skilled labor to be able to do that. And therefore, as much as we need to take care of the unskilled labor, I think going forward, really what we need to do is to concentrate heavily on the skills, especially on the vocational skills. That's the only way I think we're going to develop the economy. But not ready to say unskilled labor is not important, but it's just that it's becoming more and more difficult to have those jobs.
Excuse me, can I have that mic to just put this side just to make it equal? Because we have already a question from that side, and if the Honourable wants to continue, which I'm hoping he will, then we can just proceed. Jonathan, can I? Okay, the mic is coming that side, can I please? Okay, the lady here had a question. Honourable Nasangula also has one, but I think we'll give it to the lady
Actually,
first.
I was just joking when I said I'll answer all the questions. Because I see now.
Please.
Sorry, maybe it's my lack of understanding when it comes to skill. My question is also regarding skill in Namibia. We are saying we have lack of skill. From my understanding, education also contributes to somebody to have skill. And I understand government is doing a lot to help in education. We have enough school, I believe, and university. But we also have graduates who are still in the street. Now, is there something that the government is doing to help these graduates who are already in the street? Perhaps to say that, to help the private industry to give them some reward, perhaps those who are willing to take these graduates from the street and perhaps helping them in compensating them? Just a question.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think it was alluded to by Memenangula when she was talking about this, when you have got people with degrees and diplomas there but on their street. But only because, unfortunately for them, they happen to have studied a subject that does not really give them the skill which the industry needs. It's really the truth. That's why in 2012, the National Planning Commission came up with the National Human Resource Development Plan that actually projects the kind of skills we need to have for the next 15 years. And what was supposed to have happened is that for our institution of higher learning and the VTC to adapt their curriculums so it actually can fit within those. But I don't think we did a good job in terms of now saying, if this is what we need for the next 15 years, that's what we need to do. I think we continue in our own way of doing, doing whatever is available. Especially, I really think it's true that people want to do what is easy. It's easy to do at some degrees. It's very easy. But it's easy, but it doesn't give you any return really after that. So I think as a government, probably not only as a government, but as all of us, again, as I say, probably just need to actually explain to people to say, just when you go and study, just make sure at least you know that what I'm doing, is able to actually give me some return on my investment in my education. That's really, I think, the problem. The VTC, I think, is something real. And I think, again, we have neglected VTC in our vocational training because, again, in the country, we have come to regard vocational training as something which is like a last resort of kind of thing. Those guys who are struggling, those are the ones who are going to come in VTC. But if we come to a point one day when we actually say, look, we want to have our best minds to go and do vocational training, that way I think we want to do better. Because everything we see today here, it was not actually made by people with a degree in some other subject other than really having skills to be able to put something together. But until such time that we have really changed our mindset about how we think about vocational training, we'll still continue to actually have only very, very few people, again, really those who are struggling, to say, well, just go and do a VTC. But that has to change, actually, to have our broadest mind to go and do a VTC training.
Honorable, we have Prime Minister, former Prime Minister, and then maybe you can have a question from that side before we take a tea break. Please be reminded that you can also SMS your questions to 99902, and we will further deliberate the questions later. Former Prime Minister, please.
Yes, if you want to call me Prime Minister, you have to say Prime Minister Emeritus.
Emeritus.
Not former.
I will.
Yeah, otherwise just call me citizen.
Citizen.
First, a correction to Honorable Alweendo. The demand for vocational education is so great in the country. The spaces available are not able to accommodate the young people. I have evidence because I have 8 skills development centers. And every year we receive hundreds and hundreds of applications. But we are only able to accommodate 2,000 per year. Just a correction. Now, my real question is this. You said that the current economic slowdown is temporary. What makes you to believe so? Give me evidence.
Because I'm an economist, so if I just believe in it, no, that's not the serious answer. I think I was saying temporary in terms of how you address the issues. But I also, so this is cycles. I mean, we always go cycles in the economy. And this is again just one of the cycles. It's temporary. It doesn't mean that it's going to be forever. Maybe it's going to be 18 months. It could be 24 months. But certainly, I think the international market will still be actually improved. I don't think the commodity price will continue to, to slow down as it has for the last 18 months, for example. There has to be an end to this. But during that time when it's lasting, all I'm saying, let's reorganize our goals, let's reorganize our life, and be able to live with what the economy can offer us today. But if we do not do that, then it will mean that it just prolong, and therefore it might become a permanent issue. Because we have not actually adjusted the things because of what has happened around you. But I don't believe there's going to be a permanent slowdown in the international economy. Especially now with the American elections over, I'm sure things are going to be better. So we can go back to economies.
Thank you, Honorable. There was yes, that lady. Can you just stand up, please, the black? She had her hand up, actually.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Natalia Isaac. I'm actually one of those new graduates that are currently employed at PwC. I'm a legal compliance officer. My question is, well, I have a question and a suggestion. Honorable Alweendo, currently with the phosphate, Menangula just emphasized how it's an advantage for Namibia to have basically the right law regulation in place, and also the location is also pretty much an advantage because of the low pollution. Now, with the current phosphate mining clearance certificate given out, is it possible that it's still an advantage for Namibia to, like the location, can it still be an advantage for Namibia? Because with the phosphate mining, basically, they silence from the state side, they silence on how they're going to manage waste that is going to be extracted in the process of this whole phosphate mining thing. So with that being the current status or the current affairs, the location as an advantage for investors has now been affected, firstly. And secondly, without consulting the relevant law authorities, this clearance certificate was given, and it is also a position that it's not currently regulated by Namibian law, not even in terms of the Mining Act. Actually, it regulates phosphate mining to a very little extent. So with that being the current happening, has that, I feel in my opinion that has affected the investors, because it now seems that number one, we might be facing very shortly a situation with pollution, and secondly, we are now appearing to be uncertain about making decisions and so forth, because we have just made a decision that, okay, the certificate has been given, and then it now transpires later that, maybe we have to sit again. And so my question is in short, what is the ministry going to do to basically handle the damage that is already done by this whole phosphate mining certificate being given out and not being regulated? And also, how is the ministry going to address that? I hope you get my question.
Thank
actually.
you.
Was it a short question or was it a long question? I think that's why I was saying earlier on that when we have things like this, let's debate and give out each other space. What you just did, you took a position in which you have got a position, and somebody else has got a different position, and therefore those two positions must listen to each other and say, what is the best way to go forward? The government position is this on this phosphate. We have got natural resources in the country which we need to exploit to develop the economy. And we all agree to that point. But we also have got certain things which maybe they could be dangerous to the environment, as now, like phosphate people are saying. But we should not just disregard it. If the two can coexist, is phosphate mining and fisheries mining can coexist, and it's proven scientifically that they can coexist, why would you not want to do it? But it has to be proven. And if we are in doubt, maybe we shouldn't do it. But to simply say, look, don't do it, whereas there's no proof that it is, I also think maybe it's not really probably the best way to approach it. But really, if it's proven or there's any doubt that it's going to actually destabilize some of the other sectors which we have got, then I will also agree that, look, let's not do it because it's not good for us. And that's probably the debate which is now ongoing. It probably should be a healthy debate. As you know that, of course, the Minister of Fisheries have agreed and to look at the situation and have that debate again to continue. And therefore, let's wait for that outcome of that discussion and see where it goes. But as long as the principle is that we can only do that if it does not pose a threat to the environment. And if it does, maybe we shouldn't do it. So that's, I think, for me, is like a sensible kind of a response to have in terms of what we need to do with our natural resources. And with that,
It's a wrap. Just drop the mic.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Honorable.
Thank you so much.